Hi, this is Gail Sokol. On today's show, we're going to be talking about my top 5 favorite baking tools.
Welcome to Baking Radio. Learn the art and science of baking with author, educator, and award-winning chef, Gail Sokol. Whether you've been baking your whole life or you're brand new to the world of baking and you're looking to build your confidence and learn new skills in the kitchen, you're in the right place. This is Baking Radio.
Today, I want to discuss my favorite tools and how I use them. And you really don't need that many tools because there are more tools on the market for baking than I have ever seen in my life. And some of them are pretty darn expensive. And you don't need every tool on the market, but a few of them are pretty indispensable. What I do recommend, and this was on my wish list as a kid, but as an adult, these are the ones that I rely on the most. The first and foremost is the electric mixer. All right, get yourself a good electric mixer, not a handheld mixer, which is good in a pinch, but an actual tabletop electric mixer. There are many wonderful brands, and trust me, they will outlive you. They last forever. They usually come with 3 attachments. Usually there's a paddle, a whip, and a dough hook. It sounds like, some sort of a evil, treacherous tools to hurt somebody with, but that's what they come with. Each one is used for specific purposes, and I'm going to explain each one to you. A paddle, general mixing tool, just overall general mixing tool, and also used for something known as creaming. Just like the cream you put in your coffee, same word, but it's a different meaning. So creaming usually is softened butter and granulated sugar that are beaten together for a certain period of time, usually on medium speed. There's usually several speed levels on an electric mixer. And if you go halfway up, usually about 4, it depends on the mixer, you want to get some air beaten into that butter, and the sugar acts almost like sandpaper and forces air into that fat. And that's what helps these little air cells or air bubbles get formed in the butter. And the butter turns from yellow, which if you look at butter, it really is sort of a yellowish color, to white because it's aerated. And I always know when my butter and sugar are creamed long enough because the butter actually turns white. And the recipe will say, cream until light and fluffy. And you will see the mixture looks light and fluffy. So that's what a paddle is. A paddle can also be a general mixing tool if you're just not creaming something, but you're just generally mixing a brownie batter, a general muffin batter. You're just mixing it, generally mixing it. The next is a whip. Sounds very, very, very violent, a whip. So a whip is basically like a giant whisk. It's got long metal loops that come around, and it's pretty wide. And it beats air, lots of air into things like eggs or heavy cream. So this is how we make whipped cream. This is how we make egg foams or meringues. And that's basically what it's used for. You wouldn't want to whip granulated sugar and softened butter to cream because it really doesn't do the same thing. You'll get too much air into that butter. So a whip is something that's completely separate. The dough hook. When mixing yeast doughs, usually this will simulate the kneading process. And if you don't want to put your dough onto the work surface and sort of knead it by hand, you can use this as the beginning of kneading. But each one has its own purpose, and you would never use the dough hook to mix a dough or a batter for, let's say, muffins or cakes, because it just would not do a good job at all. The next actual tool that I love is this proper set of measuring cups to measure both liquid and solids. So a set of solid measuring cups, they come in plastic, they come in stainless steel. Some of them are like china. Some of them get handed down from generation to generation, and they're beautiful. They're very important because that's how you're going to measure your ingredients. And if you don't measure them correctly, you're not going to get a very high quality baked good. Your liquid ingredients, you should have a pourable liquid measuring cup, and that will have gradations on the side with little numbers, a quarter of a cup, a third of a cup, half a cup, 1 cup. Some of them are just 1 cup. Some of them are 2 cup volume, 4 cups. You can even buy big ones commercially that I've used in restaurants that are 1 quart or even half a gallon. And usually the ones that home chefs use are plastic or they're glass. And some of the plastic ones are cool because there's a line. And when you pour your liquid ingredient, you want to look on the side at what's known as the meniscus, that line that the liquid ingredient forms right next to the line of the measurement, the actual word, the actual fraction or number that you're looking at on the side of the measuring cup. And you want to make sure that that's exact. All right. You also want to get measuring spoons. So that's usually a tablespoon, a teaspoon, sometimes a half a teaspoon, a quarter of a teaspoon. And usually they do include an eighth of a teaspoon, which is really tiny, but you do need it on occasion. And you can also do your fractions. If you were good at fractions in math class, you can actually say, well, 1 tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. And if you misplace one of your spoons, you can sort of ad lib a little bit if you use your measurements properly. So that's my second best tool. So far we have the electric mixer and measuring cups, both solid and liquid. My third most favorite, and this probably is really, really up there, is my rubber spatula. Love my rubber spatula. So if you don't have a rubber spatula, you will have to rush out and get one because they are amazing. All right. I really couldn't live without it. And I'm actually not being facetious. So they usually have a wooden handle. Sometimes they can have a metal handle. And there's a rubber blade. And it can be slightly bent, but it usually is used to scrape down the inside of a mixing bowl, like an electric mixing bowl or even a regular mixing bowl, or to gently mix and fold ingredients together. Folding is another term that we bakers use, and it is an active verb to mean gentle mixing. And you're folding, usually sponge cakes, you'll fold your egg foams or your meringue into the rest of the batter. And that's so you do not deflate your egg foams. Egg foams have air in them, and you really want to maintain the air. And very often, the air is the sole leavening agent. That's the way that cake's going to rise. So if you get rid of the air, you have yourself a nice little flat pancake instead of a beautiful high risen cake. So rubber spatula, it's wonderful. It helps really get every single drop of a batter or dough out of a mixer, a mixing bowl, or any type of a bowl you might have. So that's 3. Number 4, an offset spatula. An offset spatula. So this is a great tool. It's usually a flat, unsharpened stainless steel blade. It's usually stainless steel, and it's rounded at the tip. So it's actually a round blade at the tip, and it's bent near the handle. That's the offset part. So it's sort of kinked near the handle. They come in various sizes, and they're great to frost cakes and cookies or spread batters in cake pans. And in order to get on the side of a cake, I love using my offset spatula because it's a great way to push that frosting over the edge of the cake. And then you just follow with the rounded side down. You point the rounded side down, that tip of that blade down, and then you can sort of smear your frosting around your cake. And it gets it to be so smooth. It's fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. The next and last baking tool that I absolutely love is my whisk. My whisk. It's basically several wire loops, and they're joined together at a handle. They're usually used to incorporate air into ingredients. So you might see somebody whisking egg whites in order to make a meringue. And some people will make whipped cream with just a whisk and a bowl. And sometimes it works fabulous. You can easily do it, and it can also build your great biceps. It really helps you build some muscle too. But whisks also incorporate dry ingredients. So like I said, I'm a little lazy when it comes to sifting. I love to whisk my dry ingredients. So they're very well blended. So To reiterate, my 5 baking tools are my electric mixer, my proper set of measuring cups, my rubber spatula, my offset spatula, and a whisk. So the electric mixer, you'll buy one, it'll come with the 3 attachments, and you'll never have to buy another one again. There are also other attachments you can buy for an electric mixer. So if you're into ice cream, or you like to grind your own ground beef or pork or sausage, you can buy attachments, or make lasagna noodles. You can actually buy attachments for electric mixers. But the true use and the reason they were born and discovered is to mix and have these 3 attachments come with them. Measuring cups, one good proper set should do you for your baking career. One liquid set, like one liquid measuring cup should be good. If you want to do a few, get them different sizes, like a 1 cup, maybe a 2 cup and a 4 cup. And your solid spoons, you can just get one set. You're usually pretty good. Now, the one thing about the spoons that I will recommend is some of them don't go into little spice containers. So guess what? These tool manufacturers have discovered that. So they have made spoons that are more elongated. So you can buy them elongated so that you can measure accurately and get that spoon into your spice container. So that's sort of cool. Rubber spatulas, I collect them. I get as many as I can. So I probably have maybe 10. I shouldn't admit that to you. I'm a rubber spatula hoarder. I love them. And I get them everywhere. So if I'm away and I'm traveling and I see a really cool rubber spatula, I'll get them. I just love them. And they have to feel a certain way to me. So put it in your hand and swish it around a little bit like a wand from Harry Potter. See if it feels good, and then buy it if it does, because you will use it all the time. And I do have my favorites. An offset spatula, they come in all different sizes. You should have maybe 2 smaller ones and maybe 1 to 2 big ones for frosting cakes. Those are fabulous. And a whisk, they come in all different sizes as well. So small for little, like maybe you want to whisk a little egg that you just want to break up. And I would also get some big ones as well if you have a bigger amount of ingredients to whisk up. But they're wonderful. They're wonderful. So those are my top 5 favorite baking tools, and I really thank you for listening. I'd love to know, what are your top 5 tools for baking? So head on over to bakingradio.com and let me know. I'd be very curious to hear what you use. And on next week's show, we're going to be discussing getting your pans ready for baking.